for identification of the defendant, Jennifer Crumbley.
Thank you, Judge. If you can recall, what are the approximate dates that you used to work with the defendant?
Roughly 2017 to 2021.
Okay. Up until November of 2021?
Yes.
And what was your role with this company?
I worked under the operations director, so I was his direct assistant.
And who's his?
Andrew Smith.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Make sure you keep your voice nice and loud for us, okay?
Sorry.
That's all right. And what specifically did you do there?
I was the operations assistant, so I helped him with all of his daily calendaring and projects. I assisted other departments, administrative work.
Okay. And what about the defendant? What did she do, if you know?
She was the marketing director at the time.
Did the two of your work overlap?
Occasionally, we had meetings together sometimes. I prepared spreadsheets and things that she would receive as well. I'd help with some projects of hers as well.
Okay. Did the both of you work for Andrew Smith?
Yeah.
Okay. So both of you reported to him?
Yes.
Okay. Now, tell us about the physical proximity between your respective workstations, you and the defendant.
She worked directly across the hall from me, so if I was sitting here, she was probably where you are, her office.
So I'm about 7 or 8 feet away, would that be right?
Roughly, yes.
Okay. And were you in an office or in a cubicle or different?
A cubicle.
Okay.
And her office was directly across the hall.
And the defendant was in an office?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what about Mr. Smith's office? Where was his at?
The office diagonal from mine. So I was on a corner and he was in the back corner.
Okay. So the three of you, generally speaking, were in the same proximity to each other?
Yes.
Okay. Now, specific to November of 2021, what hours would you generally work?
9 to 5.
Okay. And what about the defendant, if you know?
She got in earlier than me and she left around 4. I'm not sure what time she came in.
Again, nice and loud, please.
Sorry.
Pretend I'm at the very back and you're shouting at me. It's okay.
Okay.
How would you describe your relationship with the defendant?
We were friendly coworkers. We talked on a daily basis, worked together.
Did you ever socialize with her outside of work?
No.
When you say you spoke with each other on a daily basis, tell us about that interaction, please.
In the morning, if you work in an office, you say good morning to people, you talk to them, you keep cordial relationships with everyone to keep the professional relationship normal.
Okay. So fair to say that you get in the morning and say hello when you got there?
We'd say good morning, ask about our days or nights, just kind of check in with each other.
Okay. Did you know that she was married?
Yes.
Okay. Had you ever met her husband?
No.
Did you know that she had a son?
Yes.
Had you ever met him?
No.
Did she ever talk about her son?
Not often, but occasionally.
Okay. And those occasional times that she spoke about her son, was in a positive or negative context?
It wasn't either, really. It was kind of just, that he had bowling or he had, they were camping or, so it wasn't necessarily negative.
Okay. Now, in these conversations, would she keep you abreast of certain things that were happening in her life?
Yes.
Okay. Did she also keep you abreast of certain things happening in her son's life?
Not as much, but yes.
Okay. Did she tell you about any of his friends?
One friend.
Okay. And tell me about that conversation.
When I heard about the friend, it was just that he was leaving and she was concerned about her son being lonely with his only friend going away. That's really all I knew.
Do you recall, can you give us a time frame when this happened?
My time frame is kind of rough. I'm not sure exactly when. I'm not sure when that happened.
Okay. It was before the shooting?
Yes.
Okay. Was it a year before the shooting, a week before the shooting, a month before the shooting? Or
It was that year, maybe in the few months leading up to it,
Okay.
roughly. And I'm not positive on the timeline.
Did she ever tell you anything of a concerning nature about her son?
Just that he was lonely with his friend gone. So that's, always with teens, you always worry that they're going to be sad or lonely with that. They had a couple fights, but other than that, nothing crazy. There was one time where he had fainted at work, She mentioned that before too. But nothing that really stood out to me before the event.
Now, Ms. Holland, before we get into some of the specifics, just so we all understand, tell us sort of some of your job responsibilities as an assistant in operations.
I helped with a lot of claims. Andy was a lawyer, so he did a lot of the subrogation claims that came in through the apartments, so I worked on a lot of the claims. I worked with preparing spreadsheets and documents for other departments and for CFO and for marketing, to prep his calendar. I worked in other departments and did projects for them as well. So I would kind of do audits of vendors, lots of things. Operations was kind of a catch-all.
Okay.
So I kind of had my hand in a lot of different departments.
And how long did you work for Mr. Smith?
I was with the company for 5 years. I was with Andy probably for 4 of those 5 years. We were in the legal department for 1 year, and then I was his assistant for two or three.
Okay. And how long did you work with the defendant?
We were close at probably for those 2 years, roughly, when I worked with Andy, and we were in the same corner together.
Okay.
So there's a lot of shifting in the company.
Now, you said you were friendly at work, but you didn't socialize outside of work?
Correct.
Okay. Did you follow her on social media?
We were friends on social media, yeah.
Did you keep that public or private?
It was public, like you could see we were friends. A lot of my coworkers, just in any company, I friend everyone that asks, but I don't necessarily follow their feed. It's just something I like to do, so I don't like to see all of my coworkers' lives all the time. So we were friends on Facebook, but I didn't see her day-to-day posts.
Okay. And that's the setting that you selected?
Yes.
Okay.
For almost everyone I work with.
Okay. So I want to direct your attention now to November the 30th, 2021. Do you remember that day?
I do.
Okay. Were you working that day?
Yes.
Do you recall if Jennifer was also working?
She was.
Okay. Now, do you recall if you had an initial conversation with her in the morning when she got to work?
Yes. We kind of just had the good morning, check in with each other. So we did talk briefly in the morning.
Now, you mentioned that she had talked to you about fights before. Did she tell you about a fight the night before?
It was brief. She just mentioned that they had a fight. I'm not sure who initiated it. I didn't ask questions. It was kind of just, I asked her how her night went, how is she?
Mm-hmm.
She said she had a rough night, that they had a fight.
Did she say who's they?
No, it sounded like it was all of them, but she said that Ethan was out of the house and she locked him.
She locked him out of the house?
Yes.
Did you have a response to that?
No, I kind of I didn't really ask questions. I didn't push it or anything. I just kind of let it go.
Okay.
It was the morning.
Did you give her any indication? Well, let me ask you this. What did you think about that?
I kind of just gave a look and,
What do you mean give a look?
kind of just like surprised,
Okay.
but I didn't really go into detail about it.
Did she react to your surprised look?
I don't really remember.
Okay. Did she say anything else about it?
I don't remember. I don't think so, but I don't remember.
Now, in the past, the 2 years that you had worked with Jennifer, you said that she would occasionally talk about her son. Is that you have to say yes or no?
Oh, sorry, I was listening.
That's all right. No, that's fine.
But yes.
You were aware that the defendant was afraid that he would be lonely. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
yes?
Okay. Did she ever tell you about things going around in the home that caused her concern, or at least enough concern to talk to you about?
Around the home, the only thing that was concerning, I don't remember when this happened. She just mentioned that he was hearing things in the house, but she didn't go into detail about it, or I didn't ask questions.
Now, as far as time frame, are you able to give the jury an idea of a month, a week, a year prior to the shooting, or you're not sure?
It was within the year. I want to say within, again, maybe 6 months, 7 months. I don't remember, but it was definitely the year of the shooting.
Okay. Now, in regards to the conversation you had with her on November the 30th about the fight that the defendant had the night before, did the defendant tell you that she had locked him out of the house before?
I thought maybe I don't remember the exact conversation. I tried to think back at it, and I don't remember exactly.
Okay. So what stands out to you the most about that conversation?
I mean, just that was the end of a fight and how it was handled.
And how the defendant handled it?
Yeah, I'm not sure who did it, but they just said that he was locked out. I don't know who did it.
Okay. Now, we know from other evidence that's been admitted already that Jennifer arrived to your place of employment at 9:04 a.m. on November the 30th, 2021. Does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Okay. Do you remember if you arrived before or after?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Usually I arrived after her, though, so I would assume that, but...
Okay. And if you don't remember, that's fine.
Yeah.
After you had that conversation with the defendant, are you aware if she received a phone call?
I believe so. And she received a phone call in the morning. Yes.
That morning of November the 30th?
Yes.
Okay. Were you made aware of who called her?
I believe I believe it was from the school. Yes.
Do you know which school?
Oxford.
Oxford High School?
Yes.
Okay. Were you there when she received the phone call?
I was, yes.
Okay. Now, when I say there, in her office, or were you in your own workspace?
I was in my own workspace.
When she received the phone call, was her door to her office open?
Yes.
So if her office was about the distance between me and you, where would she be seated at inside the office?
She's probably a little bit further back, so the first row of seats was probably where she was sitting.
So maybe 15, 20 feet?
Yeah, because she sat a little bit further back in her office, and I was a little pushed back from my wall too, so there was a little bit of distance. But
okay. And how were you able to tell who called her?
I just heard the phone call. I didn't know who called her at first, but she mentioned she had a call from the school afterwards.
Okay, so she told you about the phone call afterwards?
Yes.
And tell me about that conversation.
She received a call, and there was another call afterwards, so there was a little bit of time in between the call, but she talked to me as she was about to leave because of the call. So she came over and showed me something on her phone and said she had to go.
Do you remember what she showed you?
She showed me the drawing that her son had drawn at school.
Okay. Did she tell you how she got that drawing?
She said the school had sent it to her.
Okay. And how did she show it to you?
It was on her phone, and she just held it up and she said, "This is what I got from school today."
Okay. And what was your response to that?
I looked at it and I thought it was scary. I thought it was intimidating to see the pictures that were on there.
And what was Jennifer's response?
She didn't seem overly worried, but she didn't seem like she was blowing it off. I think she was getting ready to go to the school. She was coming over to let me know she was leaving. I don't think Andy was there yet. So it was more of like if you see him, let him know.
Okay. And if I were to tell you that there's surveillance footage that shows her leaving at 10:12 a.m., does that sound about right?
Yes.
Okay. So just so we have an idea of the chronology of November the 30th, and I know you want to be accurate, so I want to make sure that this is all accurate. Jennifer arrived at 9:04 a.m. You don't dispute that.
No.
Okay. You arrived close in time, the same time?
Probably close in time. I was usually, sometimes things happen and I'm a little later, but I was usually there at or around 9.
Okay. And then you had your typical initial check-in conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Is that
yes?
Okay. And in that conversation is when she shared with you about the fight the night before?
Yes.
And then sometime later, you were aware that she received that phone call and then she left that night?
Yes.
Okay. From the time that she left at 10:12 a.m. and went to the school, before she came back, did you have any conversation with her?
I'm sorry, can you repeat it?
Did you see her again that day?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you see her again back at your employment?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have any phone calls or texts with her from the time that she was gone to the time she came back?
No.
Okay. So if evidence showed that she arrived back at work at 11:24, does that sound right to you?
Yes.
Okay. Did you speak with her when she came back to work?
Yes.
Oh, tell me about that, please.
She came in and it was kind of just, she has kind of a sarcastic personality, so when she came in, she kind of visibly slumped and was, said, I feel like a failure as a parent. And she said that there was a meeting at the school and that there were the drawings and they were worried about him and that he needed to get into counseling within 48 hours.
Okay. What was your response?
I just said that was, I said I was sorry. I think I said something along the lines of that, just showing concern and compassion for what was going on. She went into a little more detail about the drawing and talked to me about it. And
did she show you the drawing while she gave you detail about it?
I know I saw it before the meeting, but I don't remember if she showed it to me again, to be honest. So I don't remember if I saw it after too.
Okay.
But we talked about it, and I just remember telling her that, it was scary, and, maybe she should spend some time with him to make her feel better.
Did she ask for advice?
She didn't ask for it, no.
Okay. But what was the advice that you gave?
I just said that I think I would have brought my son home if it had happened to me. Something along the lines of that. I just said I would have brought my son home.
Okay. So if she arrived back at 11:24 a.m. and we know that she left at 1:18 p.m., do you recall about what time you had that conversation with her?
No, it was right after she got back. I think when she was coming in, she stopped at my desk and.
Oh, before she even went to her office.
I think so.
Okay.
I don't remember though, but it was very quick when she did.
Okay. After you had the conversation with her about the drawing and you giving your advice on it, did you speak with her again?
Not until she left for the day.
Okay, and tell me about that, please.
That was when she got the call. I'm not sure who called her, but somehow she got the notification that there was the shooting at the school, and she very abruptly, very, like anyone, jumped up and was nervous, scared, ran out the door.
Did you understand what was happening?
At first no, but then she went over and told Andy, and I sit. My desk is kind of on two back walls that are full, and then kind of like this, two half walls, so I can hear anything that's going on. So she told Andy, and that's how I learned what happened.
Okay. And if I told you it was 1:18 p.m., would that sound right to you?
Yes.
Did you have any conversation with her after that point?
No, I reached out to her just because I didn't know any part of the situation. I didn't know if it was her son. I didn't know if it was someone else. I didn't know. So I reached out to her and just told her I was thinking of her and I hope everything's okay. But we didn't talk. She didn't respond.
She did not respond?
No.
And one more here. Thank you for this.
Austin.
Thank you. Ms. Holland, you have previously testified in a hearing in court about this case, correct?
Yes.
And that hearing took place back in April of 2022. Do you recall that?
Was it April? I thought
Would
it
it
was,
be spring?
yeah, I thought it was maybe February.
Oh, it might have been.
I don't believe it was April though.
I'm sorry, you're correct. February 24th, 2022?
Yes.
And that would be a lot closer in time than obviously now.
Correct.
And in addition to that, when law enforcement was investigating, you cooperated with law enforcement and did interviews with them. Is that correct?
Yes.
And in fact, on December 10th, 2021, you wrote a statement about anything you knew regarding the Crumbleys, correct?
Yes.
And the law enforcement wanted to know information about Mr. or Mrs. Crumbley and their son. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And on that date, you provided, I don't know, it looks like you typed the statement out on December 10th, is that correct?
Yes.
Did you send it to law enforcement that same day?
I sent it to the company attorney. I don't know what they did with it after.
Okay, and if you need to see your statement, let me know. I will have a couple of questions about it. So I just want to make sure I understand you're involved in this case a little bit in the investigation. You were involved?
Yes.
You wrote the statement?
Yes.
And you've testified once before?
Yes.
Now, when you testified before, you were directly asked if you were friends with Jennifer Crumbley. Your answer was, no, we are not friends, correct?
Yes.
Jennifer Crumbley is not someone that you consider to be a friend to you.
Correct.
And you guys were polite enough at work, talking back and forth?
Yes.
and you were polite enough to be friends on Facebook, but didn't really monitor or pay attention to her page. Now, you are aware, obviously, that Mrs. Crumbley had a son named Ethan.
Yes.
And on November 30th, there were a couple of times that day we can agree that Mrs. Crumbley was concerned about her son.
Yes.
When she came into work on November 30th, she told you there had been an argument the night before.
Yes.
And it's your testimony, you can't remember any details about the argument, but you remember something about Mrs. Crumbley saying she locked him out.
There was an argument. I didn't ask questions or go into detail. I didn't think it was something I wanted to really engage in. She mentioned there was a fight, and she mentioned that he was locked out.
You don't know anything about him being locked out, any details beyond him that there was a claim he was locked out.
Correct.
So you don't know if he was locked out because he made an accident and left keys in the house, or if Jennifer Crumbley intentionally locked him out. You don't know the context around any of that, correct? I'm sorry?
I don't know.
Now, when she was talking to you about going over to this, when she was talking to you about Ethan Crumbley, she expressed that she was concerned specifically about him being lonely, correct?
Yes.
And she also said that she also appeared to be concerned about the drawing when she saw that.
Yes.
And she showed you a picture of the drawing.
Yes.
And ultimately, when she left to go to the school, she appeared to be very nervous and scared. You testified to that.
When she went to the meeting?
When she went to the school the second time.
Responding to the shooting?
Yes.
Yes, she was then.
She was very nervous and scared, and that's when you testified she ran quickly out the door, correct?
Yes.
When she went to the school the first time, there was not any hesitation expressed to you about going over to the school to meet with the counselor, correct?
I felt like there was maybe a little hesitation. I think she called her husband first. So it wasn't an immediate leave to go there.
At that time, there wasn't anything like a shooting going on or something crazy urgent in the same way there was in the afternoon, correct?
Yes.
So she left the office, though, and she did physically go meet with the school, and then she returned back to the office.
Yes.
You and Mrs. Crumbley discussed the time, the appointment she had over with the school and the school counselor.
Yes.
It was your understanding that she planned to get counseling for her son.
I don't know. She said it was a requirement from the school. I don't know what her plans were.
Okay, so she said that the school wanted her to get counseling,
Yes.
and she didn't tell you, I'm not getting him counseling, or I think that's a garbage request, correct?
Correct.
And you gave her some advice, being, I think it would be nice if you spent time with him, correct?
Correct.
And you suggested maybe they go have a mother-son experience, like seeing a movie or taking him out, just the two of them, correct?
Yes.
And it's fair to say that you know Jennifer from work, as you've described, but you don't know Ethan Crumbley at all.
Correct.
It's also fair to say that you don't have teenagers of your own that you parent on a daily basis.
Correct.
So any advice you gave to Mrs. Crumbley about you should spend time with him, go see a movie, you don't have personal experience about a mother-son experience with a teenager, correct?
I'm a parent, but no, not of a teenager. I still feel like I have instincts as a parent to understand how I would handle that situation.
Okay, so you have judgments about how you feel Mrs. Crumbley handled that situation. Fair to say?
I wasn't judging her. I was giving her what I would do.
Okay, well, right now, saying what you have your own personal opinions, that those
Objection
are
to the argument, Judge.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So you've never met Ethan Crumbley, and you don't have much awareness of how much time Mrs. Crumbley would spend with him. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Now, although you guys were Facebook friends, you testified you obviously did not follow follow her on Facebook and see every single post, correct? Okay, but you are aware on Facebook she would post about a variety of topics.
Yeah, I saw a few things, yes.
So some of the things you saw were about her horses.
Yes.
There's definitely pictures she posted, including her son.
I don't think I saw her son.
Pictures of holidays.
I don't think I saw holidays.
Pictures of, and do you recall seeing, you don't recall seeing any pictures of her son?
I don't recall.
Do you recall seeing photographs of the family home?
When she was working on it, but she would show me pictures too, so I don't know if I saw that on Facebook or if she showed it to me.
So one of the interests Mrs. Crumbley would talk to you about is home improvement, doing things, house projects.
Yes.
Were you aware that Mrs. Crumbley went camping with her son and on vacations?
Yes.
Did you ever see the photographs of those things and boating and things along those lines on Facebook?
I don't recall. I don't think so. But they, like I said, they might have been posted, but I didn't follow a lot of my coworkers, so I didn't see a lot of their posts unless I was actually friends with them and hung out with them and interacted with them outside of work. I didn't really see their posts. I didn't follow them. So she may have posted it, but I didn't see it.
It's fair to say you have no personal awareness of any of those things, whether they were on Facebook or happening in her life, correct?
Correct. A lot of the times, unless she showed it to me, I wouldn't see it online.
So it's fair to say that there were certainly topics going on in her life, if those topics are true, like posting pictures on holidays and things like that, activities with her son that you're just not aware of.
Correct.
Now, you testified that you were alarmed by seeing the math paperwork when you first saw the worksheet, correct?
Yes.
The drawings on the page did not concern you so much that you expected there would be a school shooting later that day, correct?
Without context, yes, correct.
You didn't expect that some major tragedy would unfold based on what you saw in that photograph.
Correct.
And you were aware that Mrs. Crumbley had returned to work and her son had stayed in school.
Correct.
You agree with me that Jennifer Crumbley, and I believe you testified to this on direct, can have a sarcastic personality.
Correct.
So there's oftentimes things where Jennifer will say something, but you can tell because you know her that she's being sarcastic.
Yes.
Now, when she said she's a failure as a parent, you said that seemed sarcastic to you.
Yes.
It's also fair to say that while that may have been partially sarcastic, Jennifer Crumbley was certainly expressing concern to you that day about her son.
Maybe. I don't know if it was concern. She was showing me the photo. She told me a lot of stories. Maybe. But she showed me in a normal manner. She didn't seem overly upset or concerned about it. But
Okay. When you've testified previously, obviously it was closer in time to November 30th of 2021. Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was the question.
Is
Yes.
that okay?
Yes, I did.
And when you testified that day about what Jennifer Crumbley said, you were asked, what did she say? And I'm on page 136 of the transcript. You said they were concerned with his drawing and they were concerned that he may be feeling badly, and it goes on from there, correct?
Correct.
And so based on her saying that she was concerned, you're saying now that you don't know if she truly was concerned? Is that your point?
I think at the time I was assuming she was concerned, but like I was trying to portray now, I don't know how she felt. I didn't ask her how she felt. She didn't tell me how she felt. She came over and showed it to me and we talked about it, but she didn't say anything specific.
Do you recall being asked by Miss McDonald, I'm on page 137 of the transcript. What was her, meaning Jennifer Crumbley's, demeanor when she was talking to you about this? And you testified, my initial thought was it was a little sarcastic, the way she said she felt like a failure. As she was talking, it was a little concerned.
Okay.
Meaning Mrs. Crumbley was a little concerned.
Okay. Yes.
It's fair to say over time, you're looking back at what happened on November 30th with more information than you had as that day unfolded, correct?
Correct.
What happened on November 30th when kids were killed, people were injured, that was something you never expected in your own head, correct?
Correct.
When there was news that there was an open shooter at the school, it's fair to say that Jennifer Crumbley appeared to be very surprised and shocked that that was unfolding.
Yes.
And we can agree that looking back at the events of November 30th, you have different information today than you had now, correct?
Correct.
And over these 2 years that have elapsed, you have had zero contact with Mrs. Crumbley.
Correct.
And you have had contact, however, with the prosecutor's office.
Correct.
You had contact with the prosecutor's office about your testimony today
Correct.
and about your testimony back at the preliminary exam, some of the testimony I referred to.
Correct.
Your Honor, may I please have one moment?
Sure.
I have nothing further.
Redress.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Allen. When we met with you, what did we tell you to do?
To tell the truth.
Is that what you're doing today?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I want to refer you back to the same page that counsel just asked you about. That's page 136, specifically line 19 of the preliminary examination. You were asked, okay, this is starting at line 9. How would you describe the writings on the worksheet? Your answer was disturbing. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And the question, okay, what was your response? Answer, I told her I thought it was scary. Question, I'm sorry, you said what? Your answer, I told her I thought it was scary. Question, okay. Answer, that he would draw that. Question, line 18. And what was her response? Line 19, she agreed. So that's, recall that conversation with Jennifer Crumbley?
I do, yes.
Okay. Now, going back to the comment that Jennifer Crumbley made to you on the morning of November the 30th, 2021, did she tell you that her son locked himself out or she locked him out?
Your Honor, I would object because I believe the witness has said she doesn't know. Or she answered me that she didn't know.
Well, do you know do you know?
I don't know. I know that there was a comment made that he was locked out. I don't know how that happened.
Okay, let me ask
She
you. The
didn't
comment
say
was
that.
he was locked out.
Yes.
Okay, but she didn't go into any specifics.
Your
You didn't
Honor,
ask.
I would object to further questions on this, that the witness has already answered the question.
Well, I guess I would have to say that once he asked the question, you asked the question, I was confused.
I just want to clarify.
Yeah, but you don't know.
I know that there was the comment that he was locked out, but I don't know how that happened.
Her exact words, the best you can recall.
To the best I can recall was that he was locked out.
Okay, those are the words from Jennifer Crumbley.
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Right, you can step down. Who's the next witness?